Hello, this is Ashley Allen's Technology Integration Project. So a couple of our technologies that we're going to be incorporating today are Nearpod, Flipgrid, Seesaw, and Google Form. I'm going to start with Nearpod. So Nearpod is a technology that you can use to incorporate interactive lessons that are self-paced, and I wanted to show you my account. So you can either do a live lesson or a student-paced lesson. They want me to upgrade to the premium, but a live lesson looks like this. When you do it live, it just means that students are working on the same lesson at one time. So this is the code that they would put in. I'm going to exit out of that. And so the life cycle of a frog, we have our learning targets, fun facts to keep them engaged. And if this was a live lesson, we would see live data as students answer this question. And so they'll answer and we can see the data live. And like on my teacher portal, I can hide where it says students and it won't show their names. So students aren't, oh, like it says hide student names right there. So students aren't afraid to answer. And it goes through different venues. I wanted to show how they can answer questions. Participation is 0 because they aren't actively doing this. But in a Nearpod lesson, all of this would be self-paced and students are able to honestly collaborate and learn from each other as well. So we're going to go back. On Flipgrid, after the lesson, the students would be able to respond. And Flipgrid, here's the 7 habits. Flipgrid, I wanted to show that students can really just take ownership of their learning and show what they learned in the lesson. Since I haven't done this lesson, I don't have Flipgrid videos of students talking about life cycles. But if this would have been an actual lesson that I did, then we would see all kinds of videos of life cycles and students are able to customize their photo with emojis, and then they can watch each other's and make comments, which makes this form collaborative as well. On our Seesaw, we are going to do a learning artifact, and I have one to show. This was one of a food chain that we did, and the students were able to sort the photos, and then down here they had to describe what they created. And so this is just an interactive way for students to complete an activity to send to me. That way I can communicate with them if we need to meet at a small group, to reassess, to go over what they are not quite understanding yet. And then the last one would be a Google Form as the unit quiz. And I'm showing you a Plant Adaptations Google Form because we did do this last year. And I wanted to show how valuable it is to have these scores right here. You can see which one they missed the most or what percentage of them got it right. And so they did pretty good on this. I would probably go back and reteach what dormant means because quite a bit of them missed that. But other than that, they did pretty good on this quiz. And so because I feel like Google Forms gives so much data, I would definitely use this in my lesson. And so those are the technologies that I would like to incorporate in this lesson. I am basing this off of the constructivism learning theory. Constructivism emphasizes the importance of social influences, free will, and human consciousness. I believe that the central to constructivism is the theory that individuals exist in a rapidly and continuously changing world that hinges on experience. And so for many people working in education, the social element is key in the classroom where theories and ideas are discussed with and built upon by fellow academics. When it comes to online education, constructivism is more relevant than ever because online learning demands collaboration. Pupils can work together in chat rooms, online forums, blogs, and webinars to create, invent, and innovate knowledge on top of pre-existing ideas. Computers are used to improve communication between teachers and students, and while teachers still provide guidance as needed, they primarily encourage the students to collaborate as users. And so through this lesson, with as much technology as we're integrating, I felt like this one really incorporated the group activities, reflections, and collaborations that I was looking for. And so for my instructional objectives and my audience, I am working with third grade in life cycles. So that's 3.10b on my TEKS. The learning target I would use is stated. They are expected to investigate and compare how animals and plants undergo a series of orderly changes. In third grade, we have to learn about tomato plants, frogs, and ladybugs. I added some guiding questions at the bottom just to kind of show how I would gauge their learning at the beginning of the lesson. This might be something I would add as extra, just as I'm thinking right now, that I would have them maybe answer on a sticky note at the end just to gauge where they were at after this lesson. My time allowances. I would expect this lesson to take probably 3 different sessions. I'm saying sessions because we know in education, we don't always get 3 consecutive days because things just come up and happen. I would say that each session would be 45 minutes. And in session 1, I would like to get the introduction and the Nearpod lesson. For the introduction, I'm mainly talking about how I would go back and refer to what we had previously learned, and then they would begin their Nearpod lesson. Session 2, I would always give room also to complete the last session's task as well. They would be able to do their Flipgrid reflection and their Seesaw activity. And in session 3, I would give time again to make sure that all of my students were able to complete everything necessary in the lesson. And then the last thing we would do is that Google Forms quiz. And I gave a quick outline of my lesson plan. This is kind of how I would lay it out for myself. I made sure to note that the technology needed would be Chromebooks. I explained that the lesson would be based off of Nearpod and it would be self-paced. There is a video, an interactive self-check activities, and a virtual field trip. Then the students would be able to self-led, they would be able to move on to the Flipgrid activity as soon as their Nearpod lesson was over. Then in order to check for understanding, because we know teachers need to check for understanding, students would get to do the Seesaw activity where they get to label and create the life cycles. And my summative assessment would be in the Google form. I wanted to show the lesson plan that I did type out. I would probably print this for myself, honestly, to refer to. And it is just a more detailed version of what I put in the presentation. So how does all this tie in? How does it correlate with my activities and my instructional design? So I designed this to be self-guided learning. I wanted it to really be based off of their previous experiences, what they've already learned, and their experience within the lesson. Then I wanted to give the students time to collaborate, and we did that through Flipgrid. Students are able to listen to other students' videos and maybe learn something new that they didn't know before or a deeper understanding. Communication is key for this as well, where students get to communicate through Seesaw also in the activities where they get to either communicate with me, their teacher, that they aren't understanding something, or they can also look at other students' work if the teacher allows it to view and see what others are creating and how they are doing it. And so that leads us to the last point, creation, where students are in charge of their learning. It is self-paced, and it is in a venue that hopefully allows for student engagement and collaboration. And that is the end of my presentation. I would like to thank you so much for hearing out my project proposal.